the fabric of life. Josephine Minetti came to the United States in the winter of 1898. Josephine was 14. She would never forget the first time that she saw the New York harbor. It would be forever etched in her memory, evoking strong feelings that would follow her for the rest of her life. The Minetti family was a large one. Josephine's parents often worried about how or when the next meal was coming for them and their children. Still struggling 2 years later, Josephine's father did the unthinkable, arranging for Josephine to be a mail-order bride. The thought of being sent away to marry a strange man tore Josephine apart. She cried, begged and pleaded for her father to change his mind and let her stay. Anthony Minetti worked 2 jobs, enduring 18-hour-long days to support his family. He wanted his daughter Josephine to have more than what he could give her. He could see that if Josephine stayed, eventually marrying someone from a local Italian family, Josephine would most likely to be living day to day. Most of the families worked in sweatshops in poor conditions for little money. Anthony Minetti wanted more than that for his Josephine. So he hardened his heart against her pleas, and he kept his resolve. With a heavy heart, he was going to put Josephine on a train that would take her far away from the struggles. That journey started with a train headed west to a big wide-open place known as Texas. She wished that her mother could have seen her off, but she understood how painful it would have been for her mother. Wiping away her tears, he helped her to board the train. As she turned away, Anthony stopped her, handing her a package he'd had under his coat. It was plainly wrapped, tied with twine. "Here," he said gruffly, "it's a gift for you from your mother and me." Quickly, he stepped closer to hug her and kiss her brow. Suddenly, the conductor signaled that the train was ready to leave, stealing away the chance for her father to say anything else. Anthony Minetti stood on the platform, watching his daughter's train until it disappeared from view. Josephine's heart hurt, and as the train rattled down the tracks, she held on to the package, still unopened. She had a photograph of her husband-to-be. She scrutinized it for the 100th time since her father had given it to her. The man staring back at her, Jonathan Edwards, looked tall and muscular. She'd looked at the man enough that she'd come to see him as a handsome man. She hoped that he was a good man. Anthony Minetti had confided in Josephine that not only had Jonathan Edwards paid for all of Josephine's travel costs, he'd also included $100 for his future in-laws to use as they saw fit. It was a lot of money, and Josephine's parents believed it was a sure sign that they were doing what was best for their daughter. Josephine hugged the paper package tighter, hoping that they were right. As the hours went by, Josephine's curiosity got the better of her, and she finally opened the package. The first thing she saw was her mother's pearl necklace. It included a note from her mother, wishing her the best of things for her in her new life. Josephine laid her head back and closed her eyes. Unshed tears welled in her eyes. The arranged marriage had been Anthony's idea. Marie Minetti didn't believe the marriage to be the only option for Josephine's chance for a better life, but she didn't argue over Anthony's arrangement. Seeing her daughter get on the train headed toward an unknown future with a stranger was more than Marie could do, so Marie refused to come to the station with them. Getting control of her feelings, Josephine carefully laid the pearls aside and lifted another layer of paper out of the parcel. One final layer of paper lay over something else in the package. Setting it aside, Josephine lifted out and found the most beautiful dress that she'd ever seen. Brilliant white, spun of lace and silk and beaded with seed pearls. It must have surely been worn or created by angels. The magnitude of the dress's beauty, such an extravagant gift from her parents, it made Josephine long to return back to them. But Josephine wanted to make her parents proud, so she carefully wrapped the dress again. It was her wedding dress, and she didn't want anything to happen to it. Jonathan Edwards was tall and handsome. He was nervous and excited to meet his future wife. He'd fallen in love with his Josephine the moment she stepped off the train. She too fell in love with him, and they married on that very day. Her wedding gown shimmered as if it had a life of its own. The newlyweds had a picture taken afterward to commemorate their wedding. As his wife, Josephine helped Jonathan with farming on their 1,000-acre ranch. Farming was unfamiliar to Josephine, and the work was hard on the young woman. But the love between them continued to grow, as did their ranch. The hardships were plenty, a year of drought followed by a year of flooding. Josephine wondering if it would ever stop raining. When she was 22, Josephine became pregnant. She and Jonathan had just about given up all hope for children when she had Emily. While pregnant, she had sensed that Emily was a girl. She went down to the cellar to look at her beautiful wedding gown. It was a gown that she would hand down to her unborn daughter. At first, Josephine had trouble locating the trunk that it was stored in. Her pregnant belly made her clumsy, so she had Jonathan drag the trunk out of the cellar. Josephine's plan was to air the dress out, then refold it and put it away again. When their unborn daughter was ready to marry, Josephine wanted the precious garment to look its best. Sadness took over when Josephine opened the trunk to find that the flood waters had made watermarks all over the bottom of the dress. Jonathan turned the trunk over and found the hole that had let the waters seep into the once beautiful dress. Tears flowed as Josephine realized that the dress was ruined. Sickened and heartbroken over the loss of her coveted wedding gown, she asked Jonathan to put away the dress and take the trunk back down to the cellar. The closer that Josephine came to delivering, the more she concentrated on other things. Eventually, the memory of the ruined dress began to fade. Emily was born a month later, a marvel with her mother's beauty and Jonathan's smile. When it came time to christen Emily, Jonathan surprised Josephine with a christening gown that was almost prettier than Emily. Josephine got tears in her eyes when she realized that her baby was wearing part of her ruined wedding gown. It touched her deeply that Jonathan had taken the gown to a seamstress, who in turn gave the dress new life as Emily's christening gown. After Emily's christening, the small, beautiful dress was packed away and put in a safe place to be worn by future babies. Emily would be the only child that Josephine and Jonathan had. In time, Emily did marry. When she married a young local rancher, she wore her grandmother Minetti's pearls with her dress. Later on, when Emily had her son Caleb, he was christened in the gown that had been part of Josephine's wedding gown. When Jonathan and Josephine Edwards died, after over 50 years of a loving marriage, Emily and her family inherited the land. As time passed, some of the Edwards land became split and then parcelled. Their descendants still own the large majority of the original 1,000 acres. Pedigreed Black Angus now graze where Texas Longhorn once walked. Modern conveniences such as electricity and running water. It made ranching a lot easier than when newly married Josephine came to live and love there. The christening gown, though yellowed with age and no longer wearable, is still handed down. It resides in a glass-covered shadow box along with the Minetti pearls. The pearls have been restrung many times, worn at weddings and christenings. In the background of the shadow box is an old photograph of a young couple. Although faded, the joy of the young pair is evident in the picture. It appears to be the couple's wedding day. The gown that the bride is wearing seems to radiate itself along with the happy bride. The dress and its history is an old story, one told time and time again. Hopefully its story will continue to be told, for each telling allows the dress to take on its different shapes and different meanings with every life it touches. Each life in turn gets woven into the fabric of the tale. It's a fabric made from the finest material, for what in life could be finer or more lasting than love?